So now it's just us.
All good.
Yeah, whatever. So I still want to ask you these questions because I still really want the answers. So this would
Okay,
be good.
perfect. Yeah.
So once again, thanks for coming, Tyler. This is Tyler Caldwell. He's the CEO of 425 Media Inc. He is a wizard with Facebook advertising, and he has a team that does search engine optimization and all kinds of other great technology stuff. If you have a business and you need some help in that area, Tyler will be your man. So
Yes.
thanks for joining us tonight, Tyler. Wanted to ask a couple of questions. The first one is really, how long have you been running your own business? And tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I got into I got into online marketing about 5 years ago. I was a heavy duty mechanic by trade. I'd done that, since I was out of high school. My dad was a mechanic, so I basically followed in his footsteps. And then I just seen an ad one time on Facebook. I was laying in bed on a Sunday one time, just scrolling through Facebook, and I see an ad for something. And the only reason I stopped on it really was because I thought, like, the guy that was in the video, I thought it was in Fort McMurray, which is the town that I lived in. I'm like, oh, what's this guy talking about? It looked the same, like it was there. Ended up it wasn't. So I listened to what he was talking about. He was saying he was talking about online marketing and these kinds of things. And so I contacted him, sent him a message. He got back to me like right away. So I was pretty surprised. And then ended up started with him. So it was actually an MLM. It was an affiliate marketing offer. That's where I started. They had a very basic Facebook ads training program. And I just started running with that. That was, back in the day when Facebook advertising was much easier, obviously. But what we did is, through him, I started getting used to doing Facebook ads. And then what happened is I got really good at it. I just really focused my time on it. And then I ended up started doing his Facebook ads for him. Then he was one of the top earners in the company. I helped him create $1 million in revenue through the Facebook ads. And I wasn't charging him for it at the moment because I was making money with the Enagic side and I was just learning my craft and, just more of a thanking him for, getting me into everything. So that's where it started. Then, I seen the sales start to go down from the product I was selling. So I was like, what can I do? I don't want to go back pulling wrenches out in the -40 cold weather. So what can I do? And I just decided, I'm going to start charging people to run Facebook ads. And that's how I started my agency. I didn't buy an agency program. I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have nothing. I basically just picked it up and started doing it step by step, made every mistake in the book, and that's why now I'm able to coach other people on what to do and what not to do. So, I do coach, help other people that are starting agencies, get started in the agency world as well. Which is an amazing program. And this is all through Entre, which is an amazing platform that if you want to learn anything that has to do with online marketing or getting started with an agency, contact Susan with that, because that's going to be your best place to start. That's, I basically started with a program that was a fraction, like a 100th of what we have in Entre now. And that's what I started with. And I was able to turn that into a very successful business over the last 5 years.
Nice. Yeah, that's for my viewers. That's how Tyler and I met, is through Entre. He teaches classes. He's an amazing at just helping people. He has a real servant's heart for that. And so the reason that we got this whole video even set up was I was on a coaching call with Tyler and a couple of other of our coaches. And I was telling him a little bit about my group and my page and what I was trying to do. And Tyler said that really resonated with him. And so I was stunned when he said he'd be willing to do an interview with me. So I snagged that opportunity like nobody's business, because I'm still starting in my business. I'm starting off with affiliate marketing, and I can explain all these terms in another video. But so the business models that Entre focuses on, I started in the affiliate marketing one. So I do intend to go to the agency one down the road. So back to Tyler. You guys don't want to hear from me.
Yeah.
You said a few words about what you did before, but Tyler's up in Canada, by the way. So -40, we don't normally see down here in the lower 48. So tell us a little about what you did before and what your life was like before in your other job.
Yeah. So I used to work in Northern Alberta, Canada. Obviously, it was way, like from where I live right now, it's probably another 7 or 8 hour drive from north from where I am. So it was basically almost in the Northwest Territories, like it's close. It's really far up there, middle of nowhere, one road in, one road out. Basically, it was just a mining town. So what they do is they mine oil, which is oil. They call it oil sands. You may have heard of it before. But I used to work on the biggest trucks in the world. You know, they'd hauled 400 tons. The tires were over 12 feet tall. That's what I used to do. I basically was a field mechanic with that. And with mechanics, I basically had the top paying job and the greatest job in the entire world in that arena.
Okay.
So there is no, like, this the highest paying jobs in Fort McMurray for tradesmen of that anywhere else in the world. Plus I was a field mechanic, which most people want to be. So I basically reached the top of where I was going to go. So for anywhere else I would have to go, I would be into management and doing these other things. I wasn't really too interested in that. So I was just plugging away, being a mechanic. And that's when I seen this with the technical stuff. Now I didn't even know Facebook ads was a thing. I didn't even know it was something that you could do. I had no technical experience. I never built websites. I never done any of that stuff. I could go on Facebook and do these certain things, but I never had a lot of technical experience outside of the mechanical field, which there is quite a bit of technical experience in there. Like we still deal with computers and stuff like that, but it was nowhere near, anything that you would think that I had a ton of experience and that's why I'm successful and everything. I literally started just like everybody else. I started with nothing. I didn't know nothing. I felt my way through, made a ton of mistakes. And you know, and that's part of the learning process. So, you know, for me, the motivation came when I found out that I was going to be a dad. And I was like, I don't want to be away from my family all the time. Because I used to work from the moment I left my front door till I got back was 16 hours. And I used to do that, you know, sometimes 21 days in a row. My regular shift was 6 on, 6 off. So 3-day shifts, 24 hours off, 3-night shifts, 6 off. So that back and forth days to nights, it kills you over time. And it's very, very hard on the body. And especially being a mechanic is already hard on the body. So, you know, I didn't want to be away from my son all that as much as I was being a mechanic. So I was like, you know, that's what attracted me to this. And when I got started, I was like, I wasn't expecting to make a bunch of money. I didn't do it to be a millionaire. I didn't do it to make I just wanted to make $1,000 extra a month. So I didn't have to work overtime so I could spend that time with my son. That's all I wanted out of it. And what ended up happening is, you know, I seen a massive change in myself and the way that I was going through. And, you know, if you see me, you know, 5 years ago compared to now, it's two different things. You know, I was in a bad spot, you know, doing drugs a lot. I was partying all the time. I was in a completely different life than I am now. And what I was able to do from getting into business and learning, like reading business books, reading the magic, being more in a grateful sense and just being around other people that have motivation and dreams that took me out of that lifestyle. And it happened in a very, very quick way, where I was able to, you know, find something that I love doing to the point where I didn't need any of that excess stuff to really get me by. Right. So it changed my life forever. It would actually save my life more than likely. So, you know, business to me is top priority for me because it's what allowed me to get out of that old lifestyle.
Huh. So that was my next question was, why did you start your own business? But you kind of answered that. You wanted to spend more time with your family. You'd already hit the ceiling in the kind of job that you were doing. It was cold. It was dangerous. The hours were horrible. You didn't really, I don't know, maybe you still enjoyed the work, but it sounds kind of dangerous. If the tires are 12 feet tall.
Yeah, definitely dangerous. For sure is dangerous. I mean, I never hated being a mechanic by any stretch of the imagination. Even now, like there's certain aspects of that I miss. Not enough to ever go back and leave what I built, but it does come into my mind. Like, you know, some things I miss, like I miss hanging out with the boys and having like that, you know, one thing about being an entrepreneur and especially when I got started and you're working a lot, you kind of are alone a lot of the time. So there is a difficult phase in which I went through where I was kind of, there wasn't that, like, you're not seeing people every day and communicating with them. You communicate all over line, like online, like we're doing, but there's not like that personal connection, and human beings long that personal connection. So it was a growing pain. It was something that I needed to get through. But in the end, it ended up working out much better. So, you know, it's just business for me, you know. It's the greatest thing that it's the greatest decision I ever made is picking up the phone and messaging that one person that one time. of like, what do you do? And everybody longs for that success, but
Right.
you know, I wasn't even fully expecting somebody to get back to me. I just messaged the on the ad, and then I didn't even know it was an ad. I thought it was just a post on my newsfeed. Like, this is literally how much I knew back then about ad. I didn't know that you could just, any average person like me or you could get on there and start running advertisements on
Neither did
Facebook
I.
and make money from it. So it was completely foreign to me. So when I clicked on it, I just thought it was a friend of a friend's post, and I just messaged the guy, right? And then when he got back to me right away, I was quite surprised. But yeah, that's, you know, the reasoning why I got into it wasn't even to be rich or, you know, to quit my job. I wasn't even planning on quitting my job. But within the first 4 months of me doing this, I knew it was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. So, you know, I went on parental leave instead of my girlfriend going on parental leave. I did, and then stayed home, started running the business. And then I went full time after parental leave was done.
Nice. So how did you get involved with Entre? If you didn't start out with Entre, how did you get involved with Entre? Entre is the name of the Entre Institute. That's where I'm going to school right now to learn how to do all this stuff. So how did you get involved with them?
Entre, I mean, one thing about the industry, if you stick around long enough, you tend to meet the same people over and over again, and they're all in different, you know, there's lots of different opportunities that people go and they move from one to the other. And, you know, some companies, they put up training and then it doesn't work out. So then it's a very difficult to serve people on that level that Entre does. It takes investment. It takes a large amount of investment. It takes a large amount of, you know, dedication to finding the right people and these kinds of things. And there was other companies that I started with, and a lot of the same people that were in those companies, because those ones shut down, had, you know, they were found by Entre. The people that built Entre kind of found these people because we were already in the industry doing the same type of training. So, you know, it came down to like, they were looking for coaches, and there's somebody that I knew was in Entre. So they asked me like, hey, you own an agency, would you be interested in coaching? And at first I was like, well, I don't know, because like my plate's already full, right? I knew teaching is what I love to do, but I was like, you know, do I even have the time to take it on? So I said, I said, you know, I'll go for the interview. I'll talk with him. And it just happened, the person that was interviewing me, he was the same. I worked with him in the last company too. So it was very, very easy. But what happened is, you know, I was like, I'll try it, you know, we'll see how it goes. And I took on a couple clients and a couple students, and, you know, brought them through the process. But then I really found that I loved this more than anything. So what I did is I started switching more of my time into doing coaching and less into building my agency. Now, this financially isn't the top-notch decision, because financially I could do much better if I put that time into building my own business. But what I quickly found is finances is only part of the equation. You also got to love what you're doing, and you also got to be in a scenario where like you can get up out of bed and not hate your life, you know. So that, you know, it's because I love it so much, you know, that's brought up about a bunch of opportunities for me. I've met a ton of great people. I've been able to help multiple students go from nothing to literally turning into coaches themselves. I have 2 students that I came 5 months into coaching with me. They actually got hired on as coaches themselves. Their agency did so well through our platform that they were able to go full time into it, and now they're coaching as well. So that was 2 they started the same week, and they both started coaching the same week as well. So they're both doing
Wow,
extremely well. Yeah.
that's cool. I feel like we need to explain to the audience what an agency is, because when I first started with Entre, to me, agency was the Central Intelligence Agency. That's just where I am. That's kind of what I've been exposed to. So what is an agency really?
An agency, well, you can have agencies that do multiple things. They have talent agencies, they have copywriting agencies.
I mean, your agency, I mean.
Yeah, for my agency specifically, and the ones that we teach, it's social media marketing more than anything else, or digital marketing, I guess, more than social media marketing, because we do a lot of SEO and stuff like that. So it's mostly digital. So digital assets. So what I always tell people is I help build and optimize digital assets. So you have to understand, like, websites, funnels, you know, email campaigns, social media platforms, all of those things are digital assets. They're like an asset in real life, they're just digital. And, you know, some people don't realize the importance of having a quality digital asset to help their brick and mortar business. So what we do is we help local businesses place their business on Google so people can find them. And then search engine optimization is like, so certain keywords, when people search in Google, like, hey, like restaurant near me or these kinds of things, and it pops up on Google, we help make that happen in the back end. So, and then Facebook ads is more of like, you know, promoting products and services that you may be selling. So maybe you have a you know, an e-commerce store, or maybe you have a course that you built and you want to sell it, but how do you get the word out to people? That's what we do. We take your course, we design a structure that works, and we put it through a funnel, and we sell your product, and we run those ads for you. And that's basically what we do. Is anything digital we can help with.
Okay, we've thrown out a couple of terms here that when I first started, I had no clue what they meant. He's used the term funnel. Now, again, funnel to me was something that I used in the kitchen to get liquid into a narrow bottle. I just poured it in. Well, it's the same kind of idea, but I had no clue what it was. Can you want to give a like 2 or 3 sentence description of what a funnel is?
Yeah, so a funnel is a website or groups of websites put together that sell a certain product. So yeah, when you think about it this way, when you go to a website, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. There's like about me, there's like all the information about the business. There's a bunch of tabs at the top. There's so much on the website that you navigate around, and sometimes you get lost and you go away. And what a funnel is it's basically a website that is specific to one thing. So if you're selling one thing, so say if it's an opt-in, you want somebody to opt in to get information from you, then you wouldn't send them to your website, because they would probably get, like us as human beings, we have a low attention span.
Squirrel.
So you might go to the website intending to put your information in so you can get information out, but then you see this flashy little tab over there, you click on that, and all of a sudden you get lost on the website, and then you do nothing, right?
Right.
Because a confused mind does nothing. So what a funnel is just a simplified version of a website that is usually intending to do one thing specifically. So maybe that's selling a product, maybe that's you know, trying to get a lead, maybe, you know, whatever the case may be. It's just a more simplified process, and that's the easiest way to explain the difference.
Yeah, thank you. So when I first heard the term, and I'm like, I have no clue what this is. Why don't they explain it? And then the next time I went online, I thought, oh, I just fell into somebody's funnel. You know, you get an ad that entices you to say, hey, check this out. Did you hear about blah, blah, blah? And you click on the link, and it takes you to a place, and it gives you all this great information. And wait, there's more. It's kind of like the infomercials of you know, the ShamWow infomercials that we all used to watch years ago.
Yeah.
But it's all electronic. So you get drawn into the ad with really good writing and images. And that's one of the things Tyler's really good at, helping craft that ad to really catch people's attention. So anyways, that's my take on funnels.
And the way that you can think about things, I don't know if anybody's ever been to an amusement park, but what that is like the old school version of what a digital funnel is. So you go on the ride, and then after the ride, you're with your kid, and they force you to walk through the toy section on the way out. So guess what? They funnel you in with the ride. So it's like, hey, I want to ride this ride. And then they sell you products on the way out. And that's a digital funnel. Costco does the same thing. You know why they have the chickens in the very back of the store? They never ever put them in the front, because people come in to get the chickens, the roasted chickens, and then in the way through the store, they see other things they want, and then they purchase things. And that's the reason why it's set up that way. So things are set up in certain ways with sales, but what funnels are is just a digital way of doing something similar to that.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. So if you had to name the most important thing that's changed for you, your life, your family, but you have like 2 kids now?
2 kids, yep.
2 kids. Since you started your business and became an entrepreneur, and were basically, you were your own boss, so you were able to, you know, whatever, what kinds of things have changed in your life since you already said that it really helped you sort of change your life perspective around with the people that you met, and you became less interested in doing all the stuff that was detrimental to you, your health, your family. What kinds of things have changed for you, just to give people an idea? What's the most important takeaway?
I think it's like, you know, the biggest thing that changes is your freedom. The freedom is basically people start businesses, and almost everybody starts businesses to make money. But what you quickly find out is the money is secondary to the freedom. And freedom is you're able to have more freedom if you have more money, obviously. And this is one of the keys. there is a point in which money, the pursuit of money, is not necessarily the best part about having a business. The best part about having a business is the freedom that nobody's going to come up in the morning and tell me that, hey, you're fired, or we don't agree with something that you did. You made a post on social media, you don't want to get a vaccine, whatever the case may be. Nobody's going to come to me and tell me I can't work, because I own the whole job. I own the whole thing. I make the rules. So freedom is the key. And, you know, money is a byproduct of the freedom that I've generated. And that, I think that's the most important piece that has come. Now, there is always, nothing's perfect. You know, being an entrepreneur is not all, you know, rainbows and flowers. I mean, there is a certain situation in which, when you're supporting your family and you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from, it can be stressful, and some people can't handle that fact. So what we do at Entre, and what we do as coaches, is we also teach people how to get through those times and not make the same mistakes as I did. So for me, you know, if I would have had me when I started my agency, I would be much more successful than I am now, because I've lost a lot of money. I've made a lot of big mistakes because I was doing it on my own. Right. So when you have people there to guide you that have done the thing that you're wanting to do, that's important. Think about the difference between online education and colleges. You will have a college professor teaching you business that's never ran a business his entire life. He's read a book and he's just regurgitating that stuff right to your face. But he's never taken action on any of the things that he teaches, because he's not a business owner. He's not successful. And that's a majority of professors are in that range. Now, what's the change? What the changes that's happening with online education is the people teaching you the things that you want to buy are the ones that have already done it. And they know the exact mistakes you're going to make. This isn't theory. This isn't something that was just brought up. The other negative side about going to a university is the fact that by time, especially with digital marketing, the way that things are moving, by time a course gets approved at a college level, it's already outdated. Yeah. I don't have a marketing degree, but I can run circles around anybody that gets a degree out of a college. I would destroy them in business in real life, because I did it. I've been in the trenches. I did the stuff. I don't need some college giving me a piece of paper telling me I'm good at business, because I already know I am. Right. And this is the thing that's changing in the economy, where no longer do you need a piece of paper to tell you that you're good enough to run a business. You are good enough if you feel like you want to do it. All you need is the ambition to actually start a business, and that's all you need. Nobody's coming, you know, like I remember when my business was going through a little bit of a lull, especially when COVID first hit. The first thing that businesses get rid of, small business, when they have to close their doors because of mandates, is marketing agencies, right? So I lost a lot of clients. I almost lost my business at that time. So I was looking for jobs in the marketing arena, and it was so funny. Most of the jobs in marketing for these big firms and stuff, they wanted a marketing degree from a college. And it was so funny, because I'm like, but it's useless. That's a piece of paper that people pay for that's absolutely useless, because the things they teach in those programs are already outdated by the time they get the program approved. It's impossible to stay on top of everything in this digital economy unless you're actually learning from the people doing it. It's impossible.
Yeah. What was it? There was one story I heard, I think it was part of the training that we got, actually, that said that at the end of a year of marketing classes, like 2 semesters of marketing classes, they wrote one ad, a whole year. And they wrote, I don't even think they wrote the actual ad. I think they just did the storyboard for the ad. And that was a year's worth of college. How much money did they spend to learn how to put together a storyboard? And there was no even guarantee that it was going to work, because it was just, you know, on pen and paper, or, you know.
Yeah. Whatever. I mean, and the thing is, there's no guarantee that you get jobs when you go to college. And so many people, it's funny, you know, because there's this negative connotation towards online education, which is switching slowly over time. But eventually colleges are going to be completely obsolete, and learning is going to be done in a completely different way. And it's already making that switch. And Entre is on the leading edge of that. And that's the reason why I love the company as much as I do, because all these different companies I've worked with, they care about money, and that's it. Yeah. But Entre cares about the outcomes of its students, to the point where they invest way more than they ever would have to make sure that the students have the outcome in which they paid for. Do you ever know of a college that does that? Colleges
Yeah.
don't. They don't care if you come to school, you don't go to school, you fail, you get a job after. Nobody cares. There's nobody holding you accountable to that stuff. Now, this is where online education makes a huge shift, is that anybody, regardless of their background and regardless of their the grades that they got in school, so maybe school wasn't your cup of tea, regardless of where you come from, you can come in and learn a skill set and be successful no matter where you came from. So this literally, has opened up an economy, and this is the greatest time to be alive, because never before in history has the average person had so much opportunity to create something of themselves. And it's as easy as learning right from your home. And that's a huge shift in the way that things are going to be done. And I'm just super stoked to be a part of that, because when education completely flips on its head, then we won't have that negative connotation. The thing is, people have no problem paying 120 grand to go to school for 4 years and not even be guaranteed a job when they get out. But you ask them to spend $1,000 on a training program to literally change their life and be able to build an actual business. And then it's like, that's a scam. And the thing is this opposite of what people think. The colleges are scamming people, not people that are selling online education.
I think people are starting to realize that slowly. So that leads right into my next question is, what would you say to people who say, well, I don't have the money to start a business. I'm just barely getting by. I'm, living paycheck to paycheck. I don't have any extra money laying around to pay for training or to start a business, or I wouldn't even know where to start. What would you say?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing comes down to, instead of saying you can't do something, figure out, how can I do it? Instead of asking yourself, I can't do that, be like, how can I do it? When you come at it from a different angle, human beings are much more resourceful than we give ourselves credit for. And the thing is when you give up on yourself, just saying I can't afford it without even looking deeper into it, is selling yourself short before you even figure out your options on what you can do. Now, the biggest thing too is you can learn almost everything that you want to learn for free on YouTube. I learned everything I know on YouTube for free. What you pay for when you buy a training program from people is it filters through all the garbage. It gives you the information you need. You don't have to go searching for it. It's in an order and in a sequence that makes sense, and it brings you through a process in order. Now, what you have to do when you do it for free on your own is it takes hours and hours. And then as a new person, do you know if that information is correct or not? This is all you pay for. You do not pay for the information that is given you, because that information, anything you want to learn right now, you can do for free.
But
right?
anybody can post anything on YouTube too.
Hundreds of hours longer of time to do it. So what is your time worth? Is it worth a small investment to save yourself 100 hours of time? That is the key. How much of your time do you want invested in information that you do not know is correct or is not? For me to find good information when I was going and teaching myself everything, sometimes I'd have to watch 4, 5, 6 videos by the time I found something that was really, really powerful. And you repeat that process over and over again. It took me forever to learn. If I would have had a program like we have, in the coaching department now, it's insane where I would be today in comparison. So it's just a matter of, you can do it for free. You can start for free. You can start that process for free. You can start moving towards it. Start watching information Susan puts out. Start watching information that other people that are doing it are putting out, and just start implementing things slowly. And then once you start to generate some money, then you can afford to upgrade and do other things. The other thing is think about things that you can cut out that are costing you money. Everybody wastes money. They say that they can't afford to start a business, but they buy every new iPhone every year. And it's like, when you start to look at things, can you put that off for just a couple of years of buying everything, having everything new? And can you just sacrifice that for a long-term life of having whatever you want?
Can you make your cup of coffee at home rather than going to the coffee shop and spending $5 or $6 on a cup of coffee? Yeah.
Yeah, it all adds up. And literally, if you did that for 3 to 4 months, if you just really watched what you were spending, cut the things out you did not need to, you could afford to get into almost anything. And this isn't like a substantial amount of money. It just depends on what direction you want to go. Every package is different. Every education process is different. But to get started in this online education is not that expensive. It's very, very cheap. It's the continued education that starts to get more and more expensive, because as the information becomes more and more high level, it costs more to get through.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean it costs that much to get started. That just means that eventually, if you want to continually grow, you're going to have to invest more money in yourself. I can tell you right now, I've invested in the last 5 years over $250,000 in education, coaching, and live events
For yourself.
So, for myself, and like that was, I mean, I don't even know what it is. I'd probably cry if I went and looked at it, but it's a substantial amount of money with the flights, hotels. I went to so many events. I used to go to an event every 3 months before COVID hit. I was at events all the time, traveling around, networking, doing different things. And they all, like, some of these events are, $3-4 grand just to go to the event. Right. And then coaching, there's lots of money I spent on coaching. Later I had a mindset coach, and that cost me quite a bit. But I've never still had a coach with the agency side, which is kind of crazy. I wish I would have, but now I'm in a position where I'm doing the coaching, so I don't really necessarily need it in that area. But everybody needs a coach somewhere. You know what I mean? Someone needs someone to support them and to help them out.
Right. What about people who say, well, okay, so maybe if I stop going to the coffee shop, and if I make all my meals at home, and I find ways to save enough money to do this training, where am I going to find the time? I'm so busy right now. I don't know where I'd find the time to do it. What do you say to them?
Well, that's just a cop out. Because I guarantee most people that say that work 8 hours a day. So it's a cop out. I worked 16 hours when I started my business, and I was doing that for sometimes 21 days in a row, 16 hours every single day. And I found time to build my business when I started. So if you want it bad enough, it's just an excuse. So when I hear people say I don't have the time, I just like, okay, well, do you work 16, 17 hours a day? No, well, I work 8 hours a day. Well, then you're lying to yourself that you don't have the time, and you're just using it as an excuse not to do it. It's simple as that. Like, if you're really honest with yourself, there's always time to find to do the things that you actually want to do. The thing is, you just haven't got off the fence to know that you actually want to do it. It's as simple as that. Set a goal for yourself that is so lofty that your job can't get you there, and then maybe your want will increase. But there's nothing wrong with having a job, by the way. Right. Like, some people think having a job is not as good as owning a business. I can tell you right now, there's no difference in either one of them. It's both lots of work. It depends on what you want. Is freedom important to you? Is financial security for your family important to you? Is spending time with your family important to you? If it is, then a job probably can't give you that, unless you have, there's jobs that pay lots of money. I made extremely good money, as a mechanic. I was making over 250 grand a year as a mechanic. And I walked away from that job with almost nothing because I wanted the freedom more than I wanted the money. It's simple. It's just a matter of what you want. And if you don't want freedom, and you like going to a 9-to-5 job, because if you didn't have that, you wouldn't even get out of bed, then that's fine. Just stay where you are. But most people want more than that. We are meant to be abundant. There's abundance out there for everybody, but abundance doesn't come from sitting at home and doing nothing. It doesn't come from that. There's, as much as our leaders want us to think that, they'll take care of us and we don't need anybody but them, and they'll just send us money every month. That is the worst place to go, because human beings are not meant for that. We're meant to work is important. What work you do doesn't matter. The person that cleans the floors and the toilets is just as important as the person that runs the company.
Amen.
The pay isn't equal. That's because the skill level in which it takes to do each thing is different. You cannot pay everybody the same, but that doesn't mean the person that's cleaning the toilet is less important. Right. So if you were in a job that is in this position where you were deemed less important, it's not without you, the whole system crumbles. Right. So without each piece in the cog, it will fall apart. But do you want to be in the low level position for the rest of your life? Probably not, because you will have a low level life. It's just the way it is. It doesn't mean you're low level. It means that the choices that you've made have allowed you to create an income that is lower than you deserve. That is it. It's all decisions. You have the decision to stay where you are. You have the decision to further your education. You have the decision to work 18 hours in a day instead of 8, right? There is always decisions. People are like, oh, Elon Musk must be nice. It must be nice to be rich. Do you know the guy works like 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, does not stop, and he's been doing that for how many years? How many people out there would be willing to do that? Right.
Yeah.
So this whole push to hate on rich people, like as if rich people are the problem. It's not the problem. It's the fact that, you know, we have a certain subject or a certain part of the population that wants to hate on rich people and blame them for all their problems. But guess who is the only one responsible for anything that in your life is you. Look in the mirror. You're the only person.
I heard a quote today on one of Jeff's podcasts where I guess he was quoting Bill Gates. It said, so if you're born poor, it's not your fault. But if you die poor, that's on you.
Yeah, exactly. And the
Now,
thing
as
is,
much as I really don't like to quote Bill Gates, that's very, very true.
Yeah, it is true. As much as he's evil, but I mean, that is true. It is very, very true in the fact of like, nobody is responsible for your success except for you. Nobody's going to come give it to you. Nobody's going to come give you anything on a silver platter. You might get you think you're getting things for free, but guess what? You're just mortgaging your kid's future by taking money for free. That's all you're doing. For me, and this is just myself personally, I'm not saying that people shouldn't have taken money through this hard time and COVID and stuff, but there's a lot of people that took money and they didn't need it. And what this is going to do is our kids are going to have to pay for that. So guess what I did? I could have got money loan free from the government and all these other things, but you know what I did? I said, I'm taking this as an opportunity to grow and struggle, because your biggest growth comes from your biggest struggles. So I did not accept money from the government because I didn't want them to have any ownership of me whatsoever. I didn't want them coming back at me later being like, well, we gave you this money. Now you got to pay it back with interest and all these other things. Also, I didn't want to mortgage my kid's future by being just throwing my arms up and giving up and being like, oh, I'm just going to take the free money. Because guess what? When you have things given to you and over, it's the same thing as when you give a kid something, they'll just destroy it. You make them work for it, they'll take care of it. And that's exactly like anything else. So for me, I didn't take a dime. And then now my business is better than it's ever been. And you know why? Because believe it or not, the universe, God, whatever you believe in, produces for people that give back and do things for other people. And that's all I did. I just started giving back more. I started not taking handouts, because handouts will put us into a place we never want to do. It is. You cannot tax yourself into prosperity, because guess what? If whatever you get for free, someone else had to work for. And that's as simple as that. Yep, nothing is free. They're telling people these shots are free. They're not free. Right. We're literally taking billions of dollars of tax money and funneling it into these pharmaceutical companies. They're making record profits. If this was really a worldwide issue of like, if we don't get these vaccines into people and if we don't, the world's going to end. Why do these companies need to make record profits? Why couldn't they do it for cost plus 10%?
And why do they need to keep telling us that it's a pandemic? Wouldn't we already know?
Yeah, exactly. So what I mean is if they actually cared about our health, they would give kids insulin for free. They would give all these other things for free. It's not about your health. Anytime the government gives you something for free is not to help you, is to impoverish you. Yeah. And that's the same thing with money. It's the same thing with anything. Anything they give to you, they take from somebody else. And if you do that long enough, the whole system crumbles. And then all of a sudden, nobody's working.
You basically become a slave.
Well, you become a slave. Yeah. Because that's what they're doing, is they're creating a slave class. And that's why they want to shut down local small businesses. Why do you think Walmart, Costco, all the other places, they never have to close? You know why? Because they got money and they're all propped up by the government. They want to destroy the middle class, the small business owner, the people that do things like we do, because we're the ones that are the most powerful. We're the ones that don't need the government. We're the ones that when they tell us to do something, we're like, we don't need you. We're self-sufficient. And the more self-sufficient you are, the less fearful you are of everything. And so above all else, owning a business is the best way to improve the entire country. So not only are you doing something for yourself, you're doing something for the entire country, because when you can grow a small business, you hire people, you support the economy. I support the economy like crazy. Like I spend money and I put money back into my business, and that's all due to me not being scared of like, there's no lack out there. You know what I mean? There's enough for everybody to be successful. So anyways, yeah, that's some of the main reasons why owning a business is so powerful.
I want to go back to a second. Something you said sparked a story in me that I remembered. You talked about You could have taken a handout from the government because your business was struggling when this all hit, because people's advertising budgets got whacked because they weren't bringing in income, so they couldn't spend it on advertising, and it was just a cycle. But you chose, rather than take a handout, to work through that struggle, figure out an innovative way to keep doing what you're doing and keep building your business. And the story was something I heard in a I think it was probably in a sermon years ago. So, a caterpillar goes into a chrysalis and magically, nobody really knows how, becomes a butterfly. So a little kid had a caterpillar and he saw that the butterfly was trying to get out of chrysalis. It's kind of a long process.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wanted to help the butterfly. So he peeled open the chrysalis so that the butterfly could get out more easily. And what happened to the butterfly?
Couldn't fly.
It died.
Mm-hmm.
Because the process of breaking out of that chrysalis is what helps it build up the strength that it needs to make those wings go. Mm-hmm. But when the butterfly didn't have to struggle to get out, he didn't have the resources and the strength and the stamina that he needed to live. So he just died.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I haven't read
amazing.
The book
yet. I just bought it, but there's a book that goes into that kind of The Obstacle is the Way, by Ryan Holiday. I think Holiday is the name. But it's all about it's the struggle that makes people successful. It's not, that's why you always hear the stories of the super successful entrepreneurs. They start like Elon Musk. He got $100 million from selling PayPal. And guess what he did? He put every dollar he had into SpaceX, and then the Tesla, and then the solar company. All of his money. He was literally living on his friend's couch.
Yeah.
And he just sold the company for $100 million. How many people out there would do that? Nobody. And so now he's reaping the rewards of this, right? So there's lots that people like to hate on Elon Musk, because if he's sitting on $100-something billion in cash, no, his companies are worth that much money. That's why his net worth is that much. We're like, oh, tax the rich. And it's like, what are you going to tax? Are you going to tax them on unrealized gains, which is the government is trying to do now, which when you guys think about it is absolute lunacy. They can tax you on money you haven't even actually created yet.
Yeah.
It's your company is worth so much money and you get taxed on what it's worth today. And then the stock market crashes next year and you lose all of that revenue, all that. So you get all that tax money back now. How does that work? You know what I mean? So you got to think, when they start going after unrealized gains, they're grasping at straws because they're robbing us blind. And we have to see things for how they are. And local businesses, small businesses, and people doing things independently is the best reason to do that. One of my theories in the reason why there's such a labor shortage in North America right now is because a lot of people have had enough of going back to work and they've started their own thing. Yep. That's part of it. Yeah. The other part of it is we have an aging workforce that have just said, you know what, I'm not even going to finish off my last 6 years of work. Why would I? I'm not going to go back. You know what I mean? What's the point? You guys are trying to force me to get a death shot. You guys are trying to take away my body autonomy, which makes no sense at all. And now you want me to go back to work. So people have just said, you know what, I'm done. And this is going to cause a huge ripple that we haven't seen yet, is this labor shortage. This is unlike any economy that's ever happened. Usually there's a work shortage. Now there's a labor shortage.
Yeah, I can't go out. You can't go down the road without seeing a help wanted sign.
Oh, everybody needs help. Yeah. And what ends up happening is now we're starting to find that it's really hard to find qualified people to do the work. Right. And that's going to be another problem that we're going to have to face in the future. But this was all caused by handouts, because some people were making more by the money they were getting given than going to work.
Yeah. So why
who
would
in their right mind would go to work and to make less money and actually have to put time in? Right.
Yeah. Then there's that whole biblical principle: if you don't work, you don't eat, which I believe in fully.
I think it's, we're a little bit too nice on that side of things, but I agree. Working, there's satisfaction that comes from work that you can't get from anything else. If you have anxiety and you're depressed and these things, and you don't know why, you may be accepting too many things for free. I mean, that's the truth.
And go ahead.
Yeah, because when you have people give you, there's always a sense in the back. It might be subconscious that the handout is not it's not contributing. Human beings like to contribute.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what we are. That's why communities used to be together, and they used to all do something different, and they'd work together, and the community would flourish. So you'd have a guy that owned a store, you'd have a guy that was a plumber, you'd have a guy that was like a blacksmith. There was always somebody doing something, and all the businesses shared, and the money just went around the community, and they all grew and they had a great life. We went away from that now.
Yeah, and they bartered with their talents. They didn't necessarily barter with money. It's like, okay, I need a loaf of bread. Well, I need a new table. Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know exactly. And I think you're going to see that we're going to have a parallel economy where a lot of that stuff is going to be happening again, which the government is completely terrified of because they cannot tax barter.
Right.
Well, not yet anyway. But
And back to the thing about, my comment about if you don't work, you don't eat. Let me be clear. There are people who need help. I totally get that. There are people who are genuinely ill and unable to do a lot of things, but everybody has a purpose. It doesn't matter what their particular talents or treasures or physical issues or mental issues. Every single person on the planet has value, intrinsic value, and there's something that they can do, even if it's something simple. It might be really simple to us, but it would, like you said, giving somebody a sense of purpose. We do this even with little kids. Little kids, you want them to be part of the team. So if a kid grows up not being part of the team, number one, their self-worth, their value, they don't think that they have anything to contribute, which is false. A little kid can get up on a stool next to mom or dad and, dry the plastic dishes rather than the glass, or learn how to load the dishwasher that's at their level. And it's not a matter of slave labor. You're teaching the value of work.
Oh yeah, that's something that we've lost a lot. And it all comes from the parenting as well. And I think what you were saying, like in the Bible, where it's saying, you have to work to eat, which is the way it was. Like, there's not saying that you don't want to take care of people. What I think the Bible verse is dictating is like, if you're able-bodied to work and you don't, then you don't deserve to be, like, who's going to feed you? Nobody can just give you everything for the rest of your life. You have to work at one point. And the things that we have in place were meant to be good, but they've been taken advantage of, right? Where I used to work in northern Alberta, there used to be guys that would come up there and work for 6 months at a time and then go back east to the provinces in the east. They get laid off, and then they would collect unemployment for the rest of the month or the rest of the year. And this was their regular schedule. They'd come up, work 6 months, get laid off. And like, there was companies up there that used to do layoffs on rotating basis so people could do that.
Oh my gosh.
What's that? That's taking advantage of the situation that we have. That's finding loopholes and taking advantage of. That's not what it was meant to be for. Right. If you're able-bodied to work, why? For me, I had to move my family from a nice, beautiful spot in BC. And well, not my family, it was myself at the time, but I had to move from a place I loved to go to somewhere I hated because that's where the job was. Right. So why is it not that way for everybody? Why do we have these loopholes where people don't have to do that? These are the things that I don't agree with. I agree with having things in place to help people in need, because that happens from time to time. Sometimes you lose your job and you need that support. And I'm 100% behind that. It's just when we take advantage of these things, all we are doing is hurting our children and their children, because that debt will have to be paid eventually, or all worldwide debt just gets wiped out to zero. And then that's a whole nother crazy scenario. If that happened, who knows what would happen if that, because that, like, I don't know, but anyways, right. It does. In the end, it doesn't matter. It's a matter of like just being being in integrity with yourself, right? So
the last point that comes up when people are trying to think about starting a business, well, what if I don't know how to do it? What if this is just something that I can't do? Maybe you're an entrepreneur and maybe you're a business person, but I don't think I can do it. So what do you say to them? How do you encourage them?
Well, I mean, that statement is true. Not everybody can do it. I mean, if everybody could do it, everybody would do it. It's not easy. I do believe that every single person can learn the skill of being an entrepreneur. I honestly think it does. But what happens is this little voice in the back that just dictates your decisions. Like, oh, you're not meant to be an entrepreneur. Well, where's the proof of this? Have you tried it? Right. not listening to that voice, because guess what? That voice in the back of your head is from your primal brain, which is your ego, which is just trying to keep you safe. So anytime that you go outside of your comfort zone, so when you feel comfortable where you're not pushed, they call that the comfort zone. I don't understand why they call it the comfort zone, because when you're in that zone, that's like the least comfortable, that you should not be in that zone. If you feel too comfortable, you need to do something that's uncomfortable. For instance, I literally my growth was stalled. I was making really good money. I had a huge contract with another big agency, and I was making really good money with that contract. But what it was doing, it was dragging my time down. I wasn't able to grow to the places I wanted to be. So I made a decision to step away from that, which was absolutely insane considering how big the contract was. But what I looked at it was like, this is, I need to continue moving forward, and money is not the only thing that's important. Your mental health and everything else is important. But that was the little voice in the back of my head was trying to tell me, don't do that, because this is comfortable. You're making good money. You're like and the comfort. And this is literally, I've taught myself that when my brain tells me don't do it because it's comfortable, I do it anyway, because that is what pushes me. Now I'm in a position where I'm like, now I got to hustle. Now I'm fun again. I feel like I'm in the game. I feel like energized, because now I got to rip, and I got to like hammer out. I got to like attack getting clients. I got to really get out there and put my name out there. I got to do my podcast like I've always wanted to do. I'm going to be, building the tinfoil apparel bigger and being able to donate more money. So there's lots of things that now I'm able to do. I might not be as financially secure as I was a couple of days ago, but I can tell you right now, that doesn't scare me in the least bit, because of the skills I've learned over the last 5 years. I can make money at anything.
Yeah. It's like
They
Cameron
could take
said,
everything from me today and I would rebuild it.
yeah.
Right. So it's no big problem.
Yeah. That's one of the things that one of the instructors in this course that I'm taking, Cameron, he's like, if I lost it all today, or if I had to give it all away for some reason, I know that as long as I had my laptop and a cell phone and internet connection, I could start over and be just fine. I'm not worried.
Exactly.
Because he's learned the skills.
Yeah. And that's the important piece, is each one of you has what it takes to do what we're doing. I'm not special. It's not like I was born a business owner. I was a mechanic. Like, I barely finished high school. You know what I mean? Like I C minus maybe like was my average. Like, I just didn't like school. School wasn't my thing. Yeah. And then when I became an entrepreneur, now I'm unemployable, because now I would go to work somewhere and they would tell me to do something. I would be like, I can't do it. I just can't. I mean, I'm very bad with that stuff. And I've always been that way my whole life. And that's why I didn't do good in school. When you have authority figures like trying to like push you down just to try to keep you under them instead of helping you grow. And that's how our school system is, like, that most teachers don't even care to actually, harness people's actual skill. If they don't fit into the box that's set with these people in the school system, then you're an outcast, or you're not smart, or you're a troublemaker. But guess what? Each single person in that school has a special talent, but just because the school doesn't recognize that doesn't mean it's not there. Yeah. And again, I think this is another place where Entre wants to disrupt education in the school system as well, in teaching kids and honing their skills in the future. I think this is an area in which, like, Entre's massive vision is to really help education as a whole on the planet, like to help kids see their true potential and grow them into something that, and that's not always going to be entrepreneur. This is why this training is going to be beyond entrepreneurship. Some people are not meant to be entrepreneurs, and that's fine. Right. There's nothing wrong with that, but you'll never know it until you give it a try.
And if everybody was an entrepreneur, who would work for them?
Yeah. It's like, so the thing is how do you know unless you try? Right. Like, if you don't try, how can you truly say that it's not for you, or that it wouldn't work? You can't. Maybe you were the greatest entrepreneur that ever lived, and you were literally letting that voice in the back of your head stop you from taking action. Have you ever thought of that? Everyone always thinks of the negative side of things, but what about the huge positive side that could come from it? You know what I mean? Which is much more positive, because guess what? There's two things that could happen. You try it and it's not for you. So now you just invested a bit of time to find out that path's not for you. That's pretty sweet. All you're doing is paying for information. So now this isn't good for me. Okay, I paid for that information. So good. Now we just move on to the next thing. People are so scared to make the wrong decision that they don't make a move, when that decision could be the life-changing piece, right? Now, the second thing that can happen, you try it and you're completely blown away and being like, this is exactly what I want to do. Now it lights your life on fire. Now your life is better than ever. I don't see the negative in either one of those directions.
Right.
Each one of those directions has a positive side to it. So the positive upside is massive compared to the very small downside. Right. And for me, it's just a no-brainer, right? So it doesn't make any sense to not do it.
Especially when you compared about going to, like you said before, going to college for 4 years and then getting out of college and realizing it, well, gee, now I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
Yeah. So you move back into you're living in your parents' basement as a 30-year-old person because you couldn't take a chance on yourself to spend a couple $1,000s when you're 100 grand in debt from going to college. You know what I mean? And it's like, this is, that's why this whole system is going to be completely turned upside down, because people are going to start to see now there is going to be things that colleges are going to be there for, of course. Sure. Like there's going to be colleges for like doctors and these things that are important, like lawyers and these things that take a lot of education. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think like going to college for some arts degree and all these other like craziness, or like your business degree or like a business administration and all these like crazy courses. It's like, all they're doing is they have them available, knowing that there's not enough jobs in the marketplace to dictate the amount of courses that they're selling. And this is one of the problems too, is like there might be 100 jobs in the entire industry, but they sell 10,000 seats into the training program for that 100 seats. Like, right. You know what I mean? Like there's just something doesn't make sense to all of that. Right. But again, that's going back. There's a lot of things that we need to fix, but we can only fix it by worrying about ourselves and our neighbor. That's it. Right. If you just concentrated on yourself and take care of your neighbor, the whole world would be a better place, right? That's all you need.
Absolutely. To do. Yeah. One of the things that we run into a lot in the Christian community in particular is, and I mean, myself as well, I've heard my mom say this. Well, what do they need all that money for? I mean, that's just in excess. They don't need all that money. Okay. So there's so much money in the world, let's say. And do you want the people who have nefarious intent, who are going to do evil things with it, to have all that money? Or would you rather have people with integrity be able to earn money to use it for good? I know for myself, I don't want a yacht. I don't really care about, I've done a lot of traveling as a younger person. That doesn't really light my fire. I don't need a big house. I don't care about a fancy car. I want to help people. I have so many charities that I would love to be able to give more to. And this is going to allow me to do that and allow me to do, set aside and build a revenue stream that can go on even after I die, to provide income for my children and my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren.
100%. Yeah. I mean, not, and the thing is this whole attitude towards, they don't need that much money. Well, okay, well, who are you to judge? They worked to build a company and that company happened to be worth that much money. So are they supposed to be sorry about that?
Right.
Is that something you're supposed to like regret? Is that something that you're not supposed to? So the thing is there's a ton of evil people out there with lots of money, but a vast majority of those people that are wealthy are good people. Maybe not in like the like super high rich range, like billionaires and stuff like that. I don't really know. I don't know these people personally, but what I don't do is typically Bill Gates and, a couple others are exceptions to the rule, but typically I don't think negatively towards anybody that has the success that I want, because that just puts it out there in the universe that that's not something you want or need. And of course, none of us need to be wealthy. Literally, if you want to go back to brass tax needs, all you need is a roof over your head and enough food to survive. Is that life? Yeah. Are people supposed to be sorry about being wealthy? Are people supposed to be sorry about doing something more than what you are? This all comes back to jealousy and fear of not enough. I can guarantee you right now, there's enough money on this planet to have everybody be multi-millionaires. Every single soul on this planet could be rich
if they're willing to work.
The problem is the system is structured in a way to keep people in a slave class. This is why they're trying to destroy the middle class right now, because the middle class was starting to get a little too wealthy. And now we're getting destroyed because of that. Yeah. See, the thing is you cannot control somebody that does not have the need of the government. The government only controls things because people are scared to not have them there because they don't have enough themselves. The minute that you have enough for yourself, The minute that you don't have no worries, you don't have anybody telling you what you can and can't do, freedom becomes, that's true freedom. And most people have never experienced true freedom. You know what I mean? And starting a business is the best way to get to that true freedom. I never hate on rich people. I think a lot of them, if you become really wealthy, you did something right. And why should you have to feel guilty because somebody wanted to, go to school for an arts degree, sit and then get out and then be sad because they couldn't get a job, and then feel sorry for themselves. They don't make a move. And then they become 35 years old and they haven't done anything. So now they're hating on rich people because they think that the rich people took money out of their pocket. No, you took money out of your own pocket by not attacking life like you should. And that's simple. And, for me, I just think really, blaming rich people for your problems is just a way to get yourself to sell yourself a story that makes it feel okay to be where you are. Oh, of course I'm not rich because this guy took all the money. You know what I mean? There's enough money. Like, they produce money every day. Like, some people think there's just a finite amount of money and some people control it. And it's like, well, Elon Musk got 180 billion. I guess there's not enough money out there for me anymore. And then they just sell themselves short. And that's how it works. It's lunacy. When you really think about it, every time that someone buys a house, that money is created out of nowhere. Right? So you times that over how many times that happens. There's money created every single day. The United States printed what, 7 billion or 7 trillion last year? The United States, they just printed it. It came out of nowhere. That money's in circulation. People are like, oh yeah, we got lots of cash. But guess what happens when there's more cash than services? Inflation.
Yep.
And then everything goes through the roof. And people don't understand that when you just print money with nothing to back it, this is the situation that we're going to get ourselves into, and increased inflation to the point where you won't even be able to afford. And the thing is all these policies these people put in place are like, oh, let's raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. What that does is it kills the middle class, because now they can't. So what happens is, instead of being able to have a person for $9 an hour, they have to now get rid of that person, lower the workforce, increase the hours of the people that they do have. So there's less overhead. And then, so that's hurtful for those people. Guess what else it does? It brings you into a different tax bracket. So you end up paying more in taxes than you did before. Yep. Right?
Nobody understands that.
And then because they did this, the economy suffers, less jobs out there, wages typically stagnate. And then what happens is, when they print a bunch of money, inflation goes to the roof. And now, as a low income earner in this new system, you're making substantially less money than you did 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And
people don't look at the effects of some of the decisions.
It'll be too late by the time you notice it. Right. But anyways, we could go deep on that subject, but there's a lot of things that we have to understand, that, the best way to be independent is to start something for yourself, that even if it's just a side project, something you do just a little bit, a couple hours a week, you start building it slowly while you keep your funding source. I don't even call them jobs. I just call them funding sources. And while you're in your funding source, you just work on it wherever you can. Right. And then you slowly start making some income. You start to make connections. You start to meet people. You start to realize that you have something very, very powerful, that you just invested in, and then things just take off. And I can tell you, it doesn't take long. When I started 5 years ago, I was like, I'm right now where I wished I was. Like, when I was five years ago starting, I was looking at these people that I was learning from, these people that were speaking on stage, and these people and I was like, man, I want to be that person one day. And now I am that person. And it only took 5 years.
Congratulations.
So it doesn't take you forever to get out of it. Just, you have to ask yourself, if I had to work my butt off for the next 5 years to be completely financially free, would you do it? If I guaranteed you it would happen, almost everybody would. But it's the part that's not guaranteed that makes it difficult, because I can't guarantee that for you, but I can tell you right now, if you don't give up, you will be successful. The only way you fail is if you give up. That's it.
Yeah. Another really important point for me that I have learned and continue to learn through this training is, people think, well, so you're not really doing any work. You're just, sitting on the computer all day and not really working. Oh, yes, I am. I think I have worked harder in the last few months than I've worked in the last couple of years. Now, I'm still in the building process, but the underlying theme is, if you create value, the market will pay you for it.
Mhm.
So it's in a, while you're in the process of figuring out how to deliver value and who needs the value you deliver, that's a learning process. And I'm still in that process. But here we've got Tyler, who has been in that process, and he's on the other side. So, there's a
And
line.
I'm nowhere near where I want to be either, because you never arrive,
Right.
right? It's not like I arrived somewhere. I just progressed. But when I looked at this, and I always, every new year, I always look at like how things have, how far I've come and these kind of things. And when I was looking at it, I was like, holy shit, like I'm actually in the position of the person that I wanted to be 5 years ago. And it just happened without me having to concentrate effort on and be like, oh, I can't wait till I get there. It wasn't like that. It was like, I just kept my nose down and then just kept it going. And then one day it just happens. But guess what? Now my goals are much bigger than they were when I started. Right. So you never arrive at success. And this is the beautiful part about entrepreneurship. You never just arrive at a place, because once you reach level, then you upgrade and then you upgrade, and you're always upgrading yourself. And I find it's the personal journey of upgrading myself that's the most interesting of it all. Now I just run a business that allows me to fund me becoming a better person, to help more people to really, and it just becomes, now it's just like, it's like a snowball. It just starts taking off. And that's the position that you're in, but nothing's guaranteed in this world. I could lose it all tomorrow and be fine. I would literally be fine if I lost it all tomorrow, because like I just build it again. Exactly like Cam says, right? You just build it again. All you need is the same, nobody can take your skill set away. They can take your money. They can take your pride. They can take all these different things, but they cannot take your skill or your, actually, they can't take your pride either. That's the lie. But they can take your physical things. They can take your house. They can take your car. They can take everything away from you. They can't take away from is your skill set. And that's going to live on forever. Right. So it's something worth doing. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Here. I totally agree. Yeah. I really appreciate, and just for those who are listening, Tyler agreed to do this, and he's talking about, he's, earned this money over these years or whatever, and keeping one up. He's not getting paid to do this. He's sharing this message from his heart for you and for me. And I just thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. That's, but this is, like you said, you get paid by the value you give to the marketplace. I might not get directly paid from this, like in financials, but guess what? If I could just, one person listening to this was like, man, that made so much sense, and I'm going to take action on this today. And you come and you create a business, you hire people, you create their life is better, and then their kids' life is better, and it goes on and on and on. The ripple effect of doing things like this is you cannot, you can't measure it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And this is why I do these things, because I will never know if what I just said to you guys is what made you take action. I'll never know that. But what I do know is if I didn't do this, I can guarantee I'm not going to touch anybody. So that's the reason why I do it. Well
said. Well, you guys, that gives you a little bit of background in what it is that I'm trying to do and what I'm building and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm learning. So I'm still learning. But the cool thing about learning is I'm still at the beginning of it, and I would love to be able to help you start your own and to come alongside you. And I mean, I'm not a professional coach at this point yet, but that's my heart, is to teach. I love to teach. I love to help people, just like what Tyler was saying. And this gives me an opportunity to do that, and I am so jazzed about that. So thank you again, 100%. Tyler, for joining us, and I really appreciate your time. And I hope you all got some value from this. And I look forward to doing it again sometime, maybe on your podcast.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks again, Tyler.
Yeah, no problem.
You have a good night.
You too. Bye.